One of the biggest shocking experience of my life happened recently. 6 months ago, we started working with an NBFC, and the whole interest was their attrition rates were very high. But they said the performance is good. We are very happy with performance, but attrition is very high. Can you please look at this problem and tell me what to do? I said, okay, let me look at the problem of attrition. And we started this entire process of people performance analytics. I can tell you, it's the biggest discovery of my life in 32 years. The discovery is we all use performance reviews based on calendar month performance. For example, in the month of April, how did you perform? How did I perform? I'm sorry. If you compare people based on April, there are some people who are 8 months old in the company, some people are 24 months in the company. So what are you trying to say? The people with more older experience have done better or worse? You cannot compare people performances on calendar month basis. So then we came up with an alternative model called resiliency-based analytics. Some people call it vintage. Whole scenario changed. Whole analytics changed. So the architecting people performance means that there is something we have to do right. There are certain things have to fall in place if performance has to happen. That's my latest discovery. What should fall in place? Many things. I'll give you a few of them and maybe we'll talk about it later. For example, the most important thing is set the target right. I found in many companies the target setting exercise is not scientific. It's not based on live data. It's not based on what really happening on the ground. In one company, we found that people had the same target, both quantitative and value terms, for last 4 years. I said, how? Salaries have gone up, or cost of living has gone up. You have to revise their salaries. So how can you keep the same target? There was no differentiation of target based on resiliency. Everybody gets the same target. A team has got 8 members. Somebody is 4 months old. Somebody is 12 months old. The boss gets a target and he distributes it to everybody. How is it possible? So the target setting exercise itself has to become more scientific. It has to be data driven. The second part is the incentive planning. I'm sorry to say this is bigger discovery of mine. The discovery has been the discovery of the incentives setting process is absolutely out of place. Let me give one small example. This client which you are now studying, I asked a simple question. Who gets the incentive? Surprise, surprise to me and also to them. Only people who got the incentive are people who have done average of 80% and of the target and above. Why? Because the incentive scheme was designed like that. If you got an incentive paid, if you cross 80% of your target. So what was the incentive purpose? Was to reward performance. This is what they said. But what they missed out is very simple. There are only 20% of the people who are in 80% and above. 80% are below 80%. So the incentive has no impact on the 80% of the population. The incentive model is supposed to motivate somebody to move up the ladder. You hired people have a distribution of performance. Everybody should step up. So you should have an incentive which encourages people to step up, not one to take care of people who already are performing, right? This has been missed out. So in short, frontline performance happens only if we design it for performance. And that is why we're calling it people performance architecting or architecture. There are many things have to fall in place. And we have set up a center now. TMI has set up a center for people performance architecture. Last 2-3 years of research, we are combining it into a first level of analytics, which I'm presenting to many of the companies. Believe me, both the companies, when I present to them, they're surprised at the data that I bring in front of them. This is the blind spot for many of them. So to my mind, it's a great, exciting space, people performance architects. HR has already completed transaction processing. We have set up a lot of HR processes. So if you ask the next gen HR, what will they do? They will architect performance. They will architect people performance. of especially frontline, because they are fresh, new in the company, and they are almost 60% or 50% of the workforce are frontline workforce in sales, operations, or in customer service. So I submit to you, it's a great, exciting world of people performance architecture. It can change completely balance sheets and profit and loss of companies, and it will completely change the skill sets and the value of HR roles in the future. Like you have compensation, performance management, etc. These are the various departments: recruiting as a department, training as a department. Companies will create a separate department called people performance architecture, and there will be a role called people performance architect, who will be using data science, they will using data analytics, they will use their experience and knowledge of psychology, because psychology is very important. What I gave you example of step up model is a good example, that if you ask somebody to take a high jump and your average high jump is 3 feet, and you put somebody on 6 feet of high jump and ask him to jump, he'll go under it. That's what all the incentive plans are all about. If you only do 80%, you have to if you have to cross 80% to make that incentive. I'm at 20%, I'm going under it. It requires psychology. So you as a HR person, you as a person in analytics space, if you combine data science, combine data analytics, which is use of data science to create some inferences, and using psychology to interpret this data to create interesting models for target setting, models for incentive planning, models for recognizing performance. So I would encourage you to open up your mind and take this opportunity to start reading up on this, and we'll also share some content for you to open up your mind. Thank you.